He looked like the most stressed out entire 25-year-old I'd ever seen.
My name is Jameson Scott. I'm here to speak to you tonight about a few ancient and interesting items I've collected over the years. I'm sorry, but I will not be answering questions about my company, or newest patents, or my personal charities.
Easy, Christian Grey.
Ah.
Township. Play now.
You looked ahead.
Yes!
You looked ahead and
I
saw
did
that.
not.
No.
I swear. You can look at my screen record of this. You can look. I did not look ahead. I fucking knew it. I love it. Uh-oh.
There's no way you just threw a 50 Shades of Grey Hail Mary and then the story said Christian Grey. You remember, what was the one time, there was one time you were reading an episode and something like that happened.
I can't remember.
It was like Angel and Mother, do you remember that?
I can't, dude. You're asking the wrong dude. I barely
Yeah,
fucking
sure. You
remember that.
forgot what story this was.
Yeah.
No, there was some story we read where it was like, oh, my mom said something about an angel and my mom, and then we read like that exact sentence a paragraph later or something like that.
We've had a couple of good calls on this.
We have our moments. We dabble.
Yeah, I saw that deed fucking from the billionaire a mile away.
There were a few disappointed. I also like, in horror media especially, it throws me off a little bit whenever it references other media, because that implies that, okay, in this universe, approximately 20 years ago, a series of towns in northern Pennsylvania were wiped out by a demonic entity that's now chained within one of those towns. And somehow, this created a series of events that also led to the exact same production of 50 Shades of Grey as we know it today.
Yeah, but it was a book, a popular book before that.
Was it? Like back in, was it?
Oh yeah. 50 Shades of Grey came out a long time ago. 50...
Well, no, it was no, 50 Shades of Grey was Twilight fan fiction originally, so it had to be after that. It was... Because in my head, like, all of this went down in, like, 2005. The town disappeared and stuff like that, right?
Published, it was self-published 2011.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I don't mind it in this case.
I'm just nitpicking. I'm being you for this episode. I was optimistic until the Christian Grey reference, and now I'm over it.
I'm even more optimistic now.
I can tell.
My future's looking up.
There were a few disappointed groans from the audience, but Jameson Scott smiled and directed a flirtatious wink at no one in particular. He was an alarmingly charming man.
I have been interested in ancient relics, particularly those of religious significance, for many years. Since I was quite young, actually. A somewhat traumatic experience played the catalyst, and I've been studying and collecting ever since. I'll begin with some of the more well-known pieces, and then move on to one more exotic.
She needs to put together quickly that this is Jamie, or it's gonna drag her down a bit. You see, like, where do I know that name?
What is going on with this?
Scott began his lecture on a bowl from Mesopotamia that was supposed to bestow on the user unnaturally long life, as long as you drank from it only water siphoned from the bottom of the Euphrates River. He spoke extensively about several other equally uninteresting artifacts before finally coming to the one I cared about, the statue.
Please study this photo for a minute.
Scott clicked to the next slide in the slideshow, and the demon statue appeared against a blood red background. As imposing and terrifying as it was in real life. A blanket of heavy, uncomfortable air descended on the room as people averted their eyes from the screen and mumbled uncertainly. I didn't take my eyes off of it.
This is the piece I spent most of my life trying to locate. May I introduce you to the demon Metaraxis?
Pause for a minute and click to the next slide. A Dante-esque depiction of hell.
Metaraxis belongs to the second hierarchy of demons, though he is virtually unknown. And this is simply because of his nature. Metaraxis doesn't kill or possess. He doesn't vie for power, bring darkness into the hearts of men, or try to influence innocence. Metaraxis eats, but he eats more than the flesh of man. He eats their homes, their histories, and their souls. If you were to be eaten by Metaraxis, it'd be as if you never existed at all. No one would remember you and the now empty piece of life you've carved out of yourself, and the world would fill in as if you were never there. Everything that was you, or ever would be you, is gone. Kind of a horrifying concept of, like, not only does it eat your soul and stuff, but your entire, like, you literally never existed.
Jameson Scott paused artfully to let his words wash over the audience, every soul in the room hanging on every syllable. I suppose it really was quite interesting, if you didn't know the heartbreaking truth of it, which I knew he did. If someone held as a genius, it seemed utterly reckless of him to romanticize all this. I crossed my arms and slumped lower in my chair. When this was over, one way or another, Jameson Scott and I would be having a conversation.
And this is why Metaraxis is an unknown. There is no one to speak his name or his deeds, alive or dead. Well, there wasn't for many centuries. At some point in history, Metaraxis grew tired of being unknown and unworshipped. He proclaimed that those who prayed to him and brought him sacrifice would not only be spared, but also given gifts of everlasting youth and resilience. Nope, that's probably Jameson. That which he had stolen from others. It is believed that several ancient civilizations took him up on his offer. They sang his songs, built his temples, and created beautiful artwork in his likeness, such as the one in your museum, to praise the demon and reap his gifts.
Okay. This is really cool. Because now Jameson's the villain of the story, effectively, right?
Yeah, Jamie, it seems as if he was obsessed with it, started worshiping it, and now is this like high-tech billionaire dude.
Yeah, because it says that the demon would give the worshippers gifts that it ate from other people. So all of those ideas Jamie has of, like, all the tech inventions he has, all the charities, all the money, was stuff that was eaten up from other people.
And this would go on for many years until a name was called that refused to be sacrificed. Metaraxis chose his tribute selectively, but eventually a name would come up of someone rich or powerful. That person would maneuver out of it, or simply commit suicide. In these instances, Metaraxis would grow angry and eat the city and all the people therein, leaving no trace that he or they had ever existed. This would have happened many times over the centuries. So we were also right there about how it's been kind of going on for...
It's been going on for a long time, but it says that someone would refuse to be sacrificed, and this would cause him to become furious. Maybe that was them escaping out of the,
I think that whenever
basement.
they awoke him, I imagine that was supposed to be their sacrificial moment, and then they ran. And that's what basically pissed them off.
Probably. Now this was interesting. The creature could be tamed like a pet. That is not at all what he said. What? She's like, she hears all this and she's like, now this is interesting. This creature is kind of like a dog.
Yeah.
You'd be tamed like a pet. As long as you gave it the treat it wanted, you would be not only saved, but rewarded. That's assuming that you're in control of the negotiation, which I feel like is a misstep. Since it's science, was too busy asking if they could. Stop asking if they should.
Something else to consider is that no one ever knew how often Metaraxis called a name. As the person would be absorbed by the demon, no one ever remembered if they had existed at all. It could have been one person a year, or 5 a day, and no one would know the demon himself. You will find mentions of Metaraxis scattered in religious texts dating back as far as 1700 BC. The statue is rare, and that is the only one likeness of him to ever be found. This is kind of interesting too, because even if you Google him, it's supposed to be like, well, Metaraxis is like no one's ever been able to remember writing him down.
Yeah, we can't find him, right?
Yeah,
So
that's a fun caveat.
Ew. that's a fun way to, because most stories would just incorporate a named demon, right?
Mm-hmm.
But saying that it is a demon whose history is unknowable, and then making up your own fit in there, and then like closely tying it to other demonic beliefs. That's fun. It's pretty cool. Jameson graced the many hands in the air with another tired smile and said,
I'm sorry, but no questions tonight. If you haven't yet had a chance to see the statue of Metaraxis, I encourage you to experience it before it's shipped to New York next month.
New York City just disappears.
Shit.
Man, someone should really put a massive city here on the coast. Then, without any ceremony at all, Jameson Scott simply walked off stage and the lecture was over. The security guard, who I realized was more likely a bodyguard, stepped forward to block several girls who jumped the stage to call on his boss.
Jesus.
Tim busy. I knew I had a chance. It's like it's Justin Bieber.
For real.
As the throng of people pressed forward to the upper exits, I fell back and went out the window. I sprinted out of the building around the corner, hoping to see what I'd gained that was there. And it was. Jameson Scott was climbing in the back of a white SUV when I spotted him. He glanced in my direction at the sound of his name, then shut the door and rolled down the window of the SUV as the SUV began to pull away. I threw a Hail Mary.
Your words on that demon will never hold!
A voice echoed down the alleyway. The brake lights came on immediately, but no one exited the car. Taking it as an invitation, I ran up to his window. For a mere 25 years old, he sure looked like he'd seen some shit. His lined, pale, yet attractive face no longer carried a tired look, just a tired one. I bent over to catch my breath. He didn't speak, but opened the door and scooted over. I climbed in.
Who may I have the pleasure?
Clayton Ross?
I held out a shaky hand, surprised and returned the shock.
Life doesn't stop when you're getting an education. That's why Sophia offers self-paced, online, college-level courses that are designed to transfer. Access 60-plus courses for only $99 a month and start learning today.
Caitlin Ross.
Said slowly, with a strange inflection of reverence.
Yes? I'm Caitlin Ross. In your words, they're bullshit.
He didn't even bother to ask how I'd know, which in turn bothered me. Simply tapped the seat in front of him and his driver let go of the brake.
Those wards have held for 6 years, Miss Ross. I assure you, they'll hold. You have no idea what you're dealing with here. Oh, I assure you I do.
There was a hard yet sad edge to his voice that suggested personal tragedy. I wondered if I misjudged him after all. Oh my gosh.
You're fucking God, Caleb. Put the fucking
Figure it out! Good lord!
My apartments are only a block away. Perhaps we should speak more in my study. This isn't a conversation for anyone over here.
He's gonna she's gonna be tied up and flipped upside down.
Maybe some bondage and ass play or whatever. You know what these are? These are anal beads. That you can count how many extra we've had this conversation.
Have you ever heard of sounding? I noted the finality in his voice, nodding at back to my seat. As long as I got to say what I couldn't say, I didn't care where I went. We were let off at the corner for several minutes. detail were already waiting. Scott escorted me into a private entrance and a private elevator with only one button marked penthouse. As soon as the elevator doors opened, one of his men ushered me into his cavernous study, and the door was shut behind me. For whatever reason, Jameson entered from a different door a few minutes later, followed by his head bodyguard who had been at the lecture. This one didn't like me one bit, merely concealing irritation and shades of panic when he saw me. He was older, clearly over 30, dark blonde hair, and a square jaw. This is a funny amount of security to have in like a small town in northern Pennsylvania.
Yeah. But I'm rich, and I'm a bachelor.
He has like a multi-floor penthouse, and everything else is like a one-story like cottage.
Yeah. He's like, could you believe it? 800 square feet. It's all mine.
They'll never take this from me. Jameson sat down behind his desk while I continued to stand. He gestured to an empty seat in front of him. He gave a suit-yourself shrug, turned to his bodyguard. His eyes continued to bore angry holes through me as they did everything else he looked at. This was quickly becoming enemy territory.
Scotch for me, Bannock. Anything for you, Caitlin?
No thanks.
I mumbled as the guard, Bannock, raked his hair back from his forehead in exasperation. I assumed it's Scott's familiar use of my first name. No threat to your boss, buddy. If anything, he's a threat to everyone else. I returned his icy glare, never wavering until his lips grew into a thin line and he curtly nodded to Jameson and left the room.
First, I want to establish, do you have any idea what you're doing?
I asked, suspending all platitudes. Jameson leaned back cautiously in his chair, giving me a casual go-on gesture.
Why would you bring that thing to a populated city? Why would you put it on display for all to see and touch? What sort of arrogance allows you to think that you can control it with a few poorly copied sigils?
He had made no move during my short outburst other than to tint his fingers and stroke his jaw with his thumb.
Which question would you like me to answer first? I'm telling you, this is getting very erotic very quickly.
I don't know. Stop. Also, there's been a lot of focus on the guards. My Hail Mary that I'm going to throw is that the guards are some kind of spiritual entity. Angel may be a bit too campy, but like some kind of supernatural thing, I think. The guards that are around him all the time. Just then, the one called Bannock opened the door with a little too much force and brought his great lord and master of Scotch. He turned to stand beside Jameson's desk, which seemed a natural and familiar spot for him.
You may go, Eric.
Jameson clipped without so much as looking at it. The guard didn't move, and I continued to stare daggers at him. We engaged in our own little personal silent standoff. He, like the statue, had eyes only for me. They were filled with rage and fire.
He can stay.
I ground out, finally. Let him know I'm not afraid of him. He was grateful for my help. He didn't show it.
As you wish. Your question?
I slid my eyes reluctantly back to Jameson.
How did you get it? I bought it from the government.
The holidays. And holiday trips. And holiday bonding. And holiday toys. And it all comes together in a Chevrolet.
Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
New web capabilities have finally arrived. Packed with powerful features and easy-to-build interactions, like rich, fluid same-document view transitions, or cross-document view transitions with novel app-like effects for seamless navigation. Build delightful, immersive sites that feel more connected than ever before, all done with a few lines of CSS. It's fast, frictionless, and surprisingly simple, and it all feels like just a line break away. It's time to reimagine the power of the web.
The government had it?
I asked incredulously.
The state of Pennsylvania. It appeared on government land in the middle of nowhere. According to the surveyor who found it, they shipped it off to PSU, who dated and appraised it, and they put it up for auction. They just sold to the highest bidder? Yeah, and why not? It's just a piece of granite to them, and they needed the money. The state of Pennsylvania is suffering its own financial crisis. Though I suppose that's why. But I suppose that's what happens when, in essence, 20% of the state just stops paying their taxes. It's a curious thing.
I winced. He didn't need to elaborate.
Why did you buy it? Because I have personal history with Metaxas. He is taken from me.
He's taken from me too. But I'm not parading him around in public, risking people's lives. Their souls, according to you.
If you listen to my lecture, you would know why I do that.
Remain silent. Jameson silently forward.
You're right, Caitlin. The wards won't hold him. Not forever. And we don't know what it will. The only reason they're holding now is because I'm giving him what he wants. Uh-oh. He's probably feeding people to him.
I think he means the worship.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you're right.
You assume that being exhibited in a museum satisfies the creature's desire for worship? And you're willing to stake people's lives on that?
I am. The creature has not moved a millimeter since he came into my care. I've employed teams of symbologists and demologists to research, test, and advise me on the safest course of action. And for our efforts, the statue has remained dormant. Yes, but it's not dead. We're going to kill someone someday.
Jameson sprung up from his desk and was in front of me before I even had a chance to take a step. His bodyguard took an almost involuntary step toward him. It was too late. Jameson was only inches from me and much more intimidating at eye level. Panic seemed uneasy and ready to pounce if I tried anything.
What would you have me do, Caitlin? Would you like me to take custody of it? What would you do with it? Tell me, and I'll consider it. Destroy it!
He gave a sad, desperate bark of laughter.
Don't you think I've tried that? Don't you think the first thing I did when I acquired it was try to kill it? I tried to incinerate it, hit it with a wrecking ball. I even ran it over with a tank. It wouldn't be destroyed by any tools of man. And believe me, Caitlin, I paid dearly for my attempts. Almost everything I love is gone. And I put it back where it came from.
If the church was even still there, and if I could find it.
No one can do that.
Who did it kill? Who that you loved?
I don't know. Also, the visual of him hitting it with the tank is very funny.
Yeah, him like
Just
bulldozing
slow moving
over
tank. Yeah. It's just like it won't break at all, but it's just like on the ground in the post. Like, I don't know why I cared so much, but I couldn't let it go. I had to. Scott took a step back, but held his ground.
And just how did you escape the creature when it came for you?
Question hit him physically, like a bullet. He leaned back against the desk, suddenly weaker, defeated and less imposing. Bannock, visibly relaxed, his hand sliding off the handle of the gun I hadn't noticed was still holstered in his belt.
This is a story for another time.
Oh, come on! How long are we gonna do this? I know who Jamie is!
Fine! Then why you? Why are you the person who's qualified to own the statue?
Because I've seen its face. My fate is bound to it, as surely as yours.
Jameson Scott rubbed his face in genuine exhaustion. If he hadn't been speaking the truth, then he was a damn good actor. He looked up at me, finally, from hooded eyes that burned with some intense, unnamed emotion.
Who did it take from you? Jamie.
I had nothing to hide, and I wouldn't disrespect Jamie by hiding the truth. Wait. I wouldn't disrespect... Okay. Oh, she's saying she wouldn't disrespect her memory of Jamie. Oh, yeah, it's Jamie she's talking to right now. I raised my chin a little higher and crossed my arms. Scott's expression had turned milder, almost pensive, and a sad smile graced his handsome face. Tension in the room abated, though Bannock was looking at me intently, his expression unchanged since the moment he walked into the room. Scott never replied. I decided to stare at him.
I want to see it.
No.
Alone.
No!
This time, both Jameson and Bannock had spoken at the same time. I know he wouldn't let me go. He never let me near the statue again. I'd assumed this before I'd even met him, which is why I wiped the museum key card off his desk as soon as I had the opportunity.
Why not?
Because he knows you!
And you know know he could break the wards if he wanted to.
No. You can never get past the gate. They're hercules drawn and blessed as they should be. But I won't risk your life.
Jameson Scott suddenly seemed battle-weary, so much older than his 25 years.
Don't even try, Caitlin. It will take you if you do. The only one who will ever remember you is me.
His plea was multi-layered, intricately woven with threads of both deceit and familiarity. Once again, I was put ill at ease. There was only one more thing I wanted from this journey.
Who did it take from you and how? Tell me. Tell me that and I'll leave Landenberg in the morning and never come back.
It was a lie, but I was curious. Jameson's eyes shifted to me, perhaps to gauge if I meant what I said. He must have believed me, as his gaze drifted off the window of the instrument in question.
I took it for myself.
It was an unsatisfying answer.
Now leave.
Commanded his bodyguard before I had a chance to reply. Jameson stared at me as I took a step back from the desk. His eyes were again pregnant with an emotion I couldn't name, but it tread a line between longing and insanity. Perhaps desperate desire, perhaps insane desperation, perhaps something in between.
I will walk her out.
Panic bit as I made my escape out the door. God, I didn't want to yet.
No, I need you here. Andrews will see her out.
Door closed behind me and I heard him walk. Andrews turned out to be an older man with a bald head and a white beard. He met me at the elevator and escorted me all the way to the ground floor.
You need a ride somewhere?
He asked as we stepped out into the street.
No, I can walk.
He said no more, just turned around and let the private door shut behind him. Nice of him to ask, at least. As I walked back to the museum, I had time to wonder just what in the hell I was doing. Why didn't I listen to Scott and just leave? Why did I hope to gain by seeing that thing again? Couldn't I just trust that he seemed to have everything under control? Scott had the resources, the money, the people, most importantly, the motivation. He had lost someone too, after all, someone he loved, though how that had come to pass was not clear. But I knew I had to see it again. Perhaps I could prove to him just how dangerous that thing was, regardless of the precautions he was taking. I need to convince him to take the statue off display before more people died. It was madness having it here. He was exposing innocent people to a demon on a reckless gamble. If I could make the statue move just an inch or two, maybe even a turn of its head, it would be on the museum security tapes, and I could prove that this thing wasn't truly dormant. I read him as a pragmatic, reasonable man. He removed the exhibit at once. I trusted that much, didn't I? She is insanely stupid.
Yeah.
This is the most reckless thing I think I've ever heard.
They're both being reckless and selfish, but it's coming to an extent that our protagonist here, Caitlin, it's becoming infuriating.
My theory is too that the thing Jamie said where he's like, I pushed her or I lost her myself, whatever. I feel like something bad happens if Jamie recognizes Caitlin, or like recognizes someone from that time period. I think Jamie knows who she is, and he's trying to keep her safe.
Something going on with Badoff too, where maybe he doesn't want to reveal that in front of him as well. Like he doesn't want him to be alone with Caitlin either, so I don't know.
Once again, I pulled up Jameson Scott's Wikipedia page. All I knew was that he was a pioneer in the tech industry, rich as a Rothschild, and interested in 14th century Judeo-Christian artifacts. It didn't fit. Just didn't. Alas, Jameson Scott was telling the truth. But even if he was being honest about his past, Scott was still lying to me about something. Everything else in the last week. I don't trust my gut. I arrived at the museum and walked around the giant building looking for the gift shop. At the moment, I knew two things. Statues was next to the gift shop, and museums usually had nighttime security. I slid Jameson's card through the reader next to the door, and a light flashed green while the door made a soft click. It should open and peered into the empty gift shop. Dim overhead lights gave the room an eerie and foreboding glow. The room reminded me of another room from over 10 years ago. A nave, darkened by dirty windows and a muted, setting sun. I was younger then, more innocent, and I had Jamie then. Would I want to give to have him with me? What would he say? Perhaps he was a 25-year-old billionaire who I could actually... Would he trust God? Would he attempt to stir the creature for the greater good? Or would he say I was stupid for risking my life? James was convinced the wars would hold. Would Jamie have been too? Whatever happened, I hope I didn't fail.
That is the end of the return to Deepwood here. I just kind of want to hop right into the death of Deepwood to kind of see what's going on. I am livid that she doesn't understand, like, has not pieced that together. Granted, she does have the ability. She has, for years now, you could argue, over a decade, she has told herself the story that Jamie's just gone, that he disappeared, that he's dead, essentially, So she has been living with that forever, so she probably hasn't even thought about him actually still being alive. But it does seem kind of naive to have somebody have another experience with that. I don't know.
She is being incredibly naive. Yeah, because like someone else has experience with it. They have for 6 years kept it from killing anyone.
Yeah.
We are on to part 3, Death in Deepwood, Pennsylvania. I padded quietly through the dimly lit gift shop, pulling the straps of my backpack tighter over my shoulder like a security blanket. When I reached the opposite door, I leaned my head against it and tried to calm my rapidly beating heart. Taking several deep breaths, I slid Scott's key card through the blinking card reader and was rewarded with a green flash with another soft click. The creature was right where I'd left it. As still as a statue, it was pretending to be. I took my time wandering around the room, my eyes never leaving Jameson Scott's surprise exhibit. If the demon was as satisfied and successfully warded as Scott bragged it was, then the creature either wouldn't notice or wouldn't care about my presence. I'm starting to hope he was right. Yeah, but he also said it remembers you and can get up whenever it wants. I approached it slowly and unbuckled the velvet rope with a shaky hand. I was so close to it now that all I could see when I looked up was the underside of its gigantic head. I suddenly wondered if years of schooling would help me read the words inscribed on the statue's stone platform. I bent down and started to pull up the velvet covering when I heard a quiet scrape above me, like stone on stone. It was a sound I'd heard before, the soundtrack of my nightmares. Though I'd been right all along, the statue wasn't normal. It was a hollow picture. I dropped the velvet and backed away from the statue, tried to determine what it moved. Nothing had changed to my naked eye, but I know what I heard. Bumping against the back wall, I decided to play a wild card. I needed it to move perceptibly if I wanted to prove that the thing was still dangerous. Turned away from the demon and faced the wall, using an arm to brace myself. I couldn't believe I was doing this. I pushed my chips all in.
Do you really think I'm scared of you? After all these years?
I asked quietly, the voice echoing around me like a gunshot.
You're just a piece of rock now. Harmless to me.
I felt my breath away. Nothing. Feeling both distant and relief, I sighed and turned around, dropping the key card as well as the job. Though it hadn't made a sound, the statue was now not only facing me, but leaning out as far off the stone platform as it could. Its mouth was open and almost imperceptibly growing wider by the second.
That's awesome.
That's the illegal platform. I would attempt him. I breathed as much to myself as the creature. My whole body was shaking and I was quietly backing up, slowly to the door. I got what I'd come for. Now it was time to leave. It happened in the breath of a second. There was a sudden crack as the demon's tail whipped through the air behind it from one side to the other, as though it were not made of stone but flesh and blood. The glass encasement on either side shattered. The makeshift wall behind split in two, and the velvet ropes came crashing down. One of the poles sent a sigil flying across the room. I screamed like I never screamed before as the creature's neck seemed to stretch across the room toward me. One of its wards no longer effective. I turned my back on it and ran for the door, realizing too late that the key card now lay under a heap of rubble.
I hate her.
This was insane. This was a horrible. She went to a demon and was like, I'm gonna mock you so that you
Yeah,
will
hey,
believe it.
fuck you. I bet you have a tiny dick.
Yeah, like what? Yeah, this is ridiculous. I turned my back on it and ran for the door, realizing too late the key card now lay under a heap of rubble. I reached the double doors and tried to jerk them open, hoping they weren't locked from the other side. They weren't. The creature was once again still as stone, and cut its eyes, following my every move, hungrily. They beat on the door, yelling for security and wondering if I was doomed, and which thought would be my last. In my hysterical panic, I suddenly remembered how I'd escaped this fate 13 years before. So I'm back to the doors as much as I dared, ran at them shoulder first.
So the demon also here probably remembers her as the person that was supposed to be sacrificed, but didn't, but ran away, got away.
Yeah, remember what I said? It's like it wants you, like it picks the target, basically.
Yeah, so that was the target before. He's probably definitely remembers her.
Yeah. They moved, creepy, but ultimately laughed at my efforts. These were no rotted, decayed church doors. Crazed with fear, I backed up to try again, and this time just as my shoulder reached the door, it opened from the other side, and I was spilling over on top of something hard or someone. Rolled over, and I passively registered that I'd landed on an enraged Bannock. He was standing and pulling me up by strapping my backpack to the door, and he was close behind us. Bannock struggled to say something, trying several times, but was too angry for words. I didn't care. Threw my arms around him, just happy to be on the other side of the door. He didn't hug me back, just froze stiff and waited for me to get off of him. When I finally pulled back, I pulled my hood down and looked him full in the face.
Did you see what it did?
I asked, pushing hair back from my face.
That thing is not dormant at all. Tell your boss that. And that needs to be moved tonight, if possible.
I hate her. She has no business to say any of this.
Unfathomable.
This is such a deeply stupid person. In lieu of a response, Bannock grabbed my arm and headed toward the lobby. Since it was away from the exhibit room, I didn't care. He could take me to jail if he wanted, as long as Jameson Scott heard what happened here. I made my point to him and lived to tell the tale. Or had I? I suddenly wondered. Honestly, if I'd learned anything in that room, it had been that the creature hadn't forgotten me. The girl that got away. My life was a black mark on the record, an insult, and I had gone into its lair and challenged. What did I think was going to happen? Yeah, what a great time to think about that. After you made it bad. One thing I was abruptly certain wouldn't stop until it had no life. The creature would burn through 100 cities, perhaps 1,000 to claim me. It had told me all of this somehow, hadn't it? Suddenly realized my mistake. The creature had been dormant when I'd arrived in Landenberg, as it had been dormant 13 years before in Deepwood. And once again, I had awoken it from its harmless slumber.
I hate her. I hate her. I hate her so much. I can't do it.
This is the second time she's walked into a place with the demon surrounded by sigils and done something to make it upset and like draw it out. How many would pay the price this time? How many people had to die before the end? You have killed 20% of the population of Pennsylvania.
I want to say that it's on. Like, yes, the demon did it, but it is indirectly her fault.
Like, at least Jamie has spent the rest of his life trying to stop it with like actual methods, other than just like.
Yeah.
Like,
she's certainly not one of the worst characters we've read. Or she's definitely not the worst character we've read, but she is getting up there to me. Of like, you're just having someone just be like, well, should I press this button that sets off a nuclear bomb?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Seems like it's gonna go off eventually, so I might as well do it myself, right?
Finally understanding the true cost of my arrogance, I let out a muffled cry and faltered, wondering with revulsion if perhaps I should just go back and face my fate.
Yes, you should. Sacrifice yourself to the great demon. Redeem yourself. Wait.
I coughed, trying to pry the guard's fingers from my arm. Bannock suddenly spun me around and pinned me against the wall, his arms braced on either side of my head. My eyes snapped up and him in shock and I recoiled from the saw there.
What the fuck are you doing here? I was just... Why'd you come back, Katie? After all these fucking years?
Well, I was wrong. My objection died in my throat, but What could it be? It wasn't possible, and yet somehow it was. My legs gave out a Jamie copy on the way down. Yep. Okay. Alright, well, you know what? Me and you, we were a little bit off. A little. I mean, he was there, we were just a little bit off. He was older than he should have been, and stronger than I ever thought the skinny kid in middle school would be. His eyes hadn't changed. It was Jamie all the same. Even his expressions were familiar to me, I realized. What I first thought was seething anger was actually just barely controlled fear. That the creature killed me, after all. Was I swirling in the dark abyss with Jamie and all the others who'd been taken?
Jamie?
My voice broke over his name.
Christ, Katie. You need to leave now and never come back. Hell, leave the country if you can. They'll never stop looking for you now.
Couldn't register what he was saying. Who wouldn't? Leave what country? Jamie, how was Jamie here? He kept me pinned there, his hold frigid, his eyes desperate and a little bit pissed off.
Jamie, how did you... How did I know you'd come here? When has the word no ever kept you from something you wanted? No, I mean how?
Hold on, hold on, what is that?
We'll take her from here, Bannock.
Voice behind him interrupted me. Jamie slowly turned to face the three men, only one of which I recognized.
This one has been too much trouble. I want her gone.
Jamie returned Tyson his voice.
Mr. Scott says we're not to take orders from you anymore, Bannock. Give her here.
Jamie suddenly pushed me out of the way, and I went sliding across the floor, the wind knocked out of me. A rushing filled my ears as I tried desperately to catch my breath. When my hearing came back, Jamie was yelling at me.
Go!
I looked back to see two men down and Jamie struggling with the third. My sneakers struggled for purchase on the slick marble floor, and when they finally found it, I was up and running toward the lobby on the wings of adrenaline. Suddenly heard a sound like a book slamming onto a table. I spun around just as Jamie went down, clutching his shoulder. Fell on top of the man he'd been struggling with, who was now unconscious. Blood began to drip over his fingers, and I went sliding across the floor as I tried to double back for him. Why are you... Jamie started to say something, but passed out mid-sentence. His hand dropped from his shoulder, and thin tendrils of blood began to race each other down his chest.
Well, now that is impressive.
Jameson Scott stepped forward from where he'd been leaning.
Cringe.
I know, yeah.
Very, very
that
anime.
100% strike me as like an anime thing.
Anime,
Pushes
100%.
up glasses.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh. Now, that is impressive. Yeah.
And I'm not impressed by much at my age.
I stumbled over to Jamie, but Scott stopped me with a single click of his gun. He walked over and rested a foot on Jamie's chest. I froze where I was. Okay, so Scott shot Jamie, right?
You all right?
Yeah, I would assume so. I saw you take my key card, you know. You played the role perfectly. In fact, everything went according to plan. Except him.
What sort of weapon is it?
Scott kicked Jamie in the ribs, but he didn't make a
Let's stay
sound.
focused. Halo.
What do you want?
Use it against the Covenant.
Your name came up.
Isn't a
I want you to die.
It's something else.
Why?
Something much more important.
Scott gave a pretentious scoff.
This ring.
This isn't a James Bond movie, Miss Ross. I don't need to explain myself to you.
I'm looking down two paragraphs and he is explaining himself in very thorough detail.
But you will, won't you?
No, that can't.
You want me to know how clever you are?
Oh, those Covenant fools. They must have known. There must have been
I
signs.
don't know.
Slow down.
What happened? What? Where did this come from?
I think she's just trying to buy time.
They're afraid.
Yeah, okay. I was playing with fire. Why not? We were far beyond caution now.
The weapons cache he's looking
You're quite
for. It's
right.
not really. We
There
can't
might
let
have
him
been a
get
place for
inside.
you on my staff if things had
There's
been
no
different.
time. Get out
Don't
of here.
flatter
Find
yourself.
keys. Stop
Why
him.
then?
Before
Why are you
it's
giving
too
a demon
late.
what it wants? Didn't kill someone you loved? My daughter, actually. And why? It's my gift to a world I was born too late into. You know, I was 50 by the time the internet was invented. 50! What sad irony then. That I was a technological genius. Oh, but the universe does love its sick jokes. Do you realize I've single-handedly guided the history of modern technology? Oh God, here we go. I'm falling deeper. This is getting cringe. It's true. I reached my 70s and then my 80s, and my vision began to fail. My hands would shake. I'd forget coding. I could barely manage to read at one point. I made millions. I hadn't even started. I just decided the world couldn't afford to lose me yet. So I tracked down every piece of ancient lore I could that helped me reclaim my youth. Most of it was rubbish, of course. But I was desperate. I'd almost given up until Mataraxis found me.
The story did dupe us pretty good. Because it is so clearly supposed to be that Jameson is Jamie, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I like the trick when the guy's name is Jameson. Like, it's just, to me, I'm like, okay, that's
The name
guy.
should have been different.
And then it's like,
because
and then you're
it's
referring
like,
to the other guy. It's almost where it's like my old friend's name used to be Sally, and this is I don't know. This is a new girl, Sally Field, and there's another girl in the room.